Hello, Stu. You are a blast.
Hey Bart, how are you?
Pretty good, Stu. Where are you playing out of?
This game is at a local VFW. It's kind of my weekly game.
VFW is a veterans hall for all you youngsters out there, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I know some people don't know what that is, but that's what it is.
So it's a local game.
It is a local game. It's professionally dealt.
Oh, nice.
Usually they get like on a Friday night, they'll get 3 tables,
So
and
do they take anything for like charity?
yeah, it's like basically an organization runs the game, and then the VFW gets a percentage of the rake.
And are like a lot of the guys who play the game veterans too?
I'd say about maybe half.
Oh, wow. It sounds like a good game. You don't have to tell me exactly where. Can you tell me the state? I'm just curious.
Maryland.
Oh, okay. All right. So
Yeah.
we should call this a Maryland charity game. I mean, we've talked about Ohio charity games and New Hampshire charity games. This is a Maryland charity game. Is it open to the public though?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
Yeah.
And just to give just a, I mean, again, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
It is and stuff, but to let you know, like I could easily go. It's a probably about equally distant for me to get to Maryland Live, but I prefer this is a better game than playing at Maryland Live for me.
Okay. So Maryland charity game. What's the size of the game?
It's a 1,000 cap.
Wow.
Yeah, and it plays like a 2-5 game pretty much.
Oh, that sounds like an awesome game for live low stakes. Because I mean, you could get thousands of dollars deep, right?
Right.
Is it usually played with a straddle?
It's not played with I mean, it can be with a straddle, but what they do, Bart, is there's an extra button on the table, and once a rotation, as that button aligns with the dealer button, it's dealer's choice. So it ends up people pick Omaha, double board barn pots, like once per rotation.
So the way that you would tell about a game, if it's not straddled, the way I would look at a game like this and try to like equate it to another game size, or if you had a choice, right? Like you're like, well, where can I make more? Besides the quality of play. Well, because you say like, oh my God, it's just 1-2. It's not like a straddle. How can it? You got to look at the first raise in size. So if the normal raise in size is like 20, that's what everybody's raising to 10x. Yeah, it's like a regular 2-5 game, especially with these stacks.
Yeah, and that is the normal raise size is anywhere from pretty much 20, like 15 to 20, sometimes more.
Right. All right. So, I mean, by the way, too, I mean, you don't want to necessarily play like this, but you can absolutely print in a game like this. Maybe not as much as you could make playing looser, but whenever you're in a game where the average open size is to like 10x, you can literally play 5% of your hands and win because there's just $3 every round that it's costing you. You could just wait. You just wait for. I mean, that's not going to probably be the best approach to the game to win the most. But I'm just saying, like, if people that professionally short stack, not that really exists, but because there's no incentive to enter the pot. But anyways, all right. So 1-2, 1K cap. How deep are you for this hand?
I'm the effective stack in this hand. I have about 900 in front of me.
So 900 effective. Okay.
And I'll just way of background. I know everybody at this table except for the person who's going to be raising first in. Hijack is the first to open. He's been very, very tight, and he opens to 20.
Okay.
And I'm on the button, and I have ace of diamonds, 5 of diamonds.
Okay.
And so there's 3 limps before it gets to the hijack.
Oh, well, that makes a huge difference.
Sorry, it's probably a minute to find my spot in my notes.
So 3 limpers, hijack raises to 20. So that's actually a small. I mean, if the standard open is to 20, and the hijack is making it 20 over 3 limpers, and usually people are opening. I mean, that's straight up a small stakes exploit. I look at that as weakness. That's not a real hand. If somebody raises to an amount that's the standard open with no regard for the limpers, it is very rarely a strong hand.
So I would sometimes agree with you in this game. I will tell you though, in this game, people ignore the limpers all the time and just have a standard open.
Oh, okay. Yeah. They don't add. Okay. So, all right. 3 limpers, hijack to 20. Okay.
And I'm on the button with ace of diamond, 5 of diamonds. And because it was this particular gentleman who opened, I actually just called, as did all the limpers.
Well, I mean, we can go over. I mean, this is basic stuff. Is obviously most hands in Hold'em you want to you're going to be incentivized to try to play heads up. So I would want to drive the limpers out. So I would be pretty much almost always 3-betting this hand. Now, if the guy was like legitimately like a super, super nit, the other interesting thing about this is when you look at this on paper, you'd be like, oh, the raise size is so large. I don't need to 3-bet because the limpers aren't gonna call. But that's not this setup. That's a standard open. Now, sometimes you might flat with some strong hands if the guy is just absolutely so tight. You don't always have to 3-bet ace 5 of diamonds, obviously, but mostly I would here in this spot. Hijack to 20, hero on the button, calls, and the limpers call.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Bart. I mean, and I would raise this on the button in this situation, but again, because of this player, I made the decision to just flat and then see what happens.
So 5 ways, right?
5 ways to flop.
Okay.
So we're 103 to the flop.
Yep.
And the flop is a good one. It's a 2 of diamonds, 4 of diamonds, 2 of spades.
Okay, so you flop a straight flush draw, ace 5 of diamonds, 4 deuce deuce with 2 diamonds. Okay.
It actually checks to the hijack, and then he bets $10 into the pot.
Check, and the hijack bets $10. That doesn't seem all that strong. Multi-way. It's interesting when you get into a scenario like this, like normally we don't choose to semi-bluff as much with a really, really nut draw multi-way because we want other people like in the pot. Okay, that's kind of the thinking type of approach. Like, you can win more money from other people in the pot. But there are just times when a bet size is so weak, a raise, if it drives like people out with like pocket 3s with 4x, if the guy has ace king, then you can just semi-bluff it and win, the 110, right? The thing about his bet is so small that if you choose to just call, if it's a VFW charity game, you're going to have the other guys randomly call with other overcards, which you're like, okay, that's fine. I'm ahead of those, but that's fine. But like if the turn's like an offsuit 9, somebody might just have a random 9. Let me ask you this question. Whenever somebody min bets here, I just consider it a check. What would happen if he checked? What would you have done?
If he checked, I would have bet.
And how much would you have bet?
I probably would have bet small, maybe $25, $30 into the pot.
Okay. I mean, a lot of times when somebody min bets, like I just treat it like a check. Like if you were going to bet 30 here, then you could just raise it to 40 because of the fact that he bet 10 and he's just adding money to the pot. And that still might get the same thing accomplished here too, getting a better ace high to fold out and getting everything to fold out behind you. I don't know what you did. I'm just kind of talking out loud. But
no, it was, to be honest, the bet sizing was so small, it really confused me because in my mind, in this particular game, it either means somebody's really strong and they're looking to, they're looking to check raise, right? Like they hit a 2 and they're looking to check raise, or they're just trying to see where they're at. They have 9s, 10s, jacks here, and they want to put $10 out. But it was such a small bet. In game, I think I was confused enough that I just called.
Again, and that's the thing. Like I just think the next time you get into a situation where somebody bets 1/10 the size of the pot, just treat it like a check. Do what you would have done, but you just increase the size a little bit just because obviously the pot is a little bit larger. So you'd look at the pot at like as 110. So you bet 30 or 40. Now, people are like, well, what if someone from up front like has a deuce, Well, but I'm not saying you, but I'm saying that we already decided that we were going to bet anyways on the flop. His hand is strong enough to bet and continue anyways. So that's not going to stop me from not raising here because there's other people in the pot. So hero just calls. Okay.
Yeah, hero calls and everybody calls.
So this is exactly what I'm talking about here too. Another reason for raising is that now, even if it's like a brick turn that has absolutely no connection with the board, like an offsuit 9 and it gets checked to you, now you almost don't have the ability to bluff the entire field out on the turn because I'm telling you that these limpers are probably going to call with anything that they limped in with. Because it's a 10 to win 110, right? Like the board's 4 deuce deuce. If someone has like 9, 10 of clubs, they might call for 10. So there's just It's almost like it got checked through. It's almost like it got checked. The only difference between it getting checked through in this situation is that if somebody hits top pair on the turn, like a 9, if it had gotten checked through and then somebody hits top pair on the turn, they'll probably bet if it was legitimately checked through. But here they might continue to check because the guy bet as the pre-flop raiser. That's the only difference. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, we're at 150, right?
Yeah, just over 150. And I think, I really appreciate that feedback, Bart, because I think that's, if I were to sit back, and I hadn't thought about it this way, but if I'd sat back and said, how would I have felt if I checked and this checked through? I wouldn't feel good, right? So you're right that the $10 call is the same as allowing it to just check through.
Well, I mean, you want to, it's almost like a value bet. I mean, there's nothing wrong with building up a pot on the button on the flop towards the nuts with so much. I mean, you have so much equity against single pairs here because you've got like 15 outs with the overcard that you can decide, like you're building the pot up and you're in position. So if it got checked to you and you bet and then somebody calls and their reaction is almost always going to check to you on the turn, you can decide what you want to do on the turn based upon how many people called you, what the turn card is, whether it made your hand or not, and how you want to play it. So yeah, I mean, that's why I would bet if it got checked to me on the flop. But all right, 150 to the turn.
Okay, so turn's a pretty good card. It's a 6 of diamonds.
All right, so you make the nut flush. And again, the board is paired, so it's 4 deuce deuce with 2 diamonds. The turn's a 6 of diamonds. Here with ace of diamonds, 5 of diamonds on the button. Okay.
Yeah, so now the hijack checks.
So it gets checked to the hijack. Check, 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 hijack checks. Okay. Yep.
Yes, check to hijack and hijack checks. And then I decided to go for large sizing here, thinking that if somebody, has a 2 and they're hanging around and they were slow playing something, obviously if they made a miracle straight, they're not going anywhere. So I actually bet 150 into 150, basically I bet pot essentially 150.
I actually think that, listen, I'm all for fast playing. The thing about your hand is because you have the ace of diamonds, no one can have the ace of diamonds. Now it's a little bit better that you have ace 5. I think this would be a really bad bet if you had ace king of diamonds.
Fair enough.
As the nut flush, because the fact that like you want to get called by like a single diamond here because it's 4 deuce deuce with 2 diamonds turns to 6 of diamonds. Somebody could still have the king. And I got to tell you, there's a very good chance with what happened on the flop, min bet call. I think there's a very good chance that at least one person has the king or the queen of diamonds in their hand. Just by like the nature of the way that hands are played. So
and there's so many cards out. There's
right.
So many.
I don't want the queen of diamonds to fold here. And God forbid if the king of diamonds folds. So I was kind of thinking of like 100 personally to get those diamond hands to fold. I think 150 might be a little bit on the larger side. What you said before though about a deuce, I'm not really I'm not that we're concerned about a deuce. I think a deuce might have raised off. Maybe. But all right, so Hero bets 150.
I mean, so far I haven't played the street. I mean, from your view, you'd play every street differently.
Well, I mean, that's why you call in, right? So
no, so that's why I'm calling it in. Exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, and I think 2 in game, I was thinking, I want to make up a little bit for letting it essentially, the min $10 kind of fly on the flop. So maybe in my head, I'm thinking I want to make up for a little bit of that lost value. I bet the 150. Under the gun folds, UTG1 folds. Low jack now raises me to 350.
So fold. The first 2 limpers fold, and the low jack, who's the third limper, check raises to 350.
And the hero and the hijack now folds. So now we're heads up.
Hijack folds. Wow, this is interesting because I don't know. When you look at this, like first of all, you've got the nut flush, right? But you bet so big here on the turn. I can't really think of a smaller flush that is going to make this play. What I mean by that is that you have to understand that a smaller flush would have to check the turn when they make the flush. First of all, a smaller flush would have to just call the flop bet, like you did. Last to act, which is possible. Maybe he doesn't always check raise, like it's a VFW game. But then on the turn, a smaller flush would also have to check the turn to the guy that bet $10 multi-way. And I think that only happens a very small portion of the time with the non-nut flush. I think a lot of people are just going to bet the flush because it's going to get checked through. So he would have to check the turn. Then he'd have to check raise your full pot size bet. Your full pot size bet. Because like if a guy checked the turn here with like 7-8 of diamonds and then you fired out 150, wouldn't he just call now? I mean, again, I'm trying to do the best that I can at these levels because a lot of times people don't know what they're doing and they might do weird things, which would kind of be like, it's kind of hard for me to, you guys have how much in stacked? So if you make this call, you have,
I'll have a little over 500 behind.
So if you call here, the pot will be 850 and you'll have a little over 500 behind. So that's why I'm like, these are one of these situations where I might call and see what he does at the end. Like people will be like, what do you mean? You're going to call and then the river's a brick and the guy jams and you're going to fold? Yes, I might, because the call in itself might be so strong to this guy that he might shut it down. Because I mean, in reality, you bet 150 into 150, the pot's 300. He raised it 350. So it's 650, 200 for you to call. So again, I look at this and I'm like, well, 650, 200 for me to call. Am I good here? Are you good here 1 out of, say, 4 times? Now, I guess if you can make the case, because you can't really improve, if you say people in the chat, if you want to say you're not good here 1 out of 4 times, then sure, you can make the case that it's a fold. I can get on board with that. My argument is that I think that you can be good here 1 out of 4 times. And then if the rivers are breaking any jams, now you're not good. Well, you'd have different pot odds on the river, but you're not good like 1 out of 2.5 times. So it changes from street to street. And I think it's a crazy spot for anyone, again, I haven't looked at the chat, anyone thinking, oh, I'm just going to fold. Like, it's a lot harder in practice.
Yeah, I think like in game, like my reaction, I think in this street we probably played it. The outcome was the same. Like I decided to just call.
Okay.
I couldn't find a fold, and evaluate,
Right.
And by the way, the low jack is a known player to me. Definitely a losing player, but having a good night. She has about 1,400 in front of her.
And so it's a lady.
Mm-hmm, it is, yeah.
I've seen a lot of overplay. And again, I see some chatter. So there's a question on the chat. This is why I think that calling can be the best play here some of the time against players like this, because you might get the best of both worlds here. This is what I've noticed at small stakes. So if the river's a brick, somebody asked me the question, if the river's a brick and they check, are you betting? And my answer is yes. So the best of both worlds is that I could see folding on a brick if she jammed and it's not an overplay, that she has to be such a strong hand. And then I can also see a smaller flush checking and us getting maximum value by betting. Now, that makes a lot of assumptions. I understand that. But I'm just saying, like, I'm leaning on like 20 years of experience where I don't think 7-8 of diamonds here is going to just like blast river now all in this weird pot, but 7-8 of diamonds might check and call off. So that's my answer to that. The pot is 850. The pot is 850 and you guys have a little under 500. Okay, let's go to the river.
Okay, so the river is pretty much a brick. It's the 8 of spades.
Okay, all right. I mean, I said 9, whatever. 8 of spades. Okay.
8 of spades.
Yeah.
And my stomach does flips when she jams into me.
I think I would. Well, so it's like 500, right?
Yeah, it's 500. So 5. I've got in my notes. 5. I 520 behind, so 520 to win 1373.
I mean, I have to be consistent about my thought process. I mean, I think if she jams now, I think I'm probably going to fold. People can agree with me or not, the thought process. Now, the odds obviously change now on the turn because it's 1370, 520 for you to call. So you only have to be good, it's still almost like 1 out of 4 times. So the thing here is that the question just is that, is she overplaying King 10 of diamonds here? Now, if people want to make the argument, or I guess, I don't know, people are saying trips. There's no way someone's playing ace deuce like this. But if you want to make the argument that a smaller flush might play this way, sure, then you can click in the call, and then some people think that you should just fold it on turn. But I actually, no, I
Go ahead. I'm
no,
sorry.
no, I was just gonna say, I just think I want to keep it consistent here. I don't. And again, the time I would change this is like if my opponent, if I just didn't think she had really any clue, and she just didn't really know what was going on. I've seen a lot of overplays, then maybe I call because she just doesn't really know the value of hands.
Yeah, one of the reasons I sent this hand in is I had posted it not in Discord, but on a couple of other Facebook groups I belong to with poker, and I was shocked at how many people responded saying it was a clear call because I really tanked about it,
That people thought it was a clear call as played.
Yeah, like I should be calling her shove, like it wasn't even that hard a decision getting the odds I was getting.
And again, just to now it's actually it's actually worse for you that you have this combo of nut flush now. And what I mean by that is that like it gives her a chance to have the king high flush. What I talked about earlier in the hand, where if you had ace king of diamonds, like if you had ace king of diamonds here, it would be even more of a fold.
Right.
Because she couldn't have the king high flush.
She couldn't have a second nut flush. Yeah.
Right. What did you do?
Anyway, I know the call's going a little.
No, that's all right.
I'll give you the reveal. I did tank for quite a bit, and in the end, I did call. I just decided I was good. I was probably, it was really close that I was probably good 1 out of 3.5 times, but it was a really tough call, and not to be results oriented, but I actually was good. She had a deuce and then a offsuit king.
Well, see, this is what I'm talking. You mean king deuce off?
Mm-hmm.
See, this is what I'm talking about here. So that just changes everything in the sense that have you played with this player before?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, if you've played with this, here's the thing, Stu. If you've played with this player before and you have seen a hand that went down in this way in any facet, where she's checking the turn and then jamming all in on the river with trips when the flush comes out after you bet a pot-sized bet and call a check raise, then there's no way in the world I'm ever folding because it's obvious that she doesn't know what's going on. Like, did she turn her hand over like she thought she was good?
No, she which really says like, what's the bet about, right? She said as soon as I called, she said, "Oh, I've got it's a 2. If you got a flush, you're good."
So sometimes you'll see this type of like very, very strange play at the small stakes because people don't know what to do at the end. They're scared of checking. She's scared of checking here, which kind of, again, that falls into the same thing with maybe possibly with a smaller flush. But yeah, that's a bizarre. Like I said, what I would take away from that, I can only tell you my thought process and what I typically see at these particular stakes, but characterizing unknowns, especially in a game like this, is so important that you gain. If you're one of this guy, if you're somebody else that's not Stu, different, and then that's not this lady at the table, and you see this hand go down, that gives you so much information. And if you're on your phone and you don't pay attention and you don't see the reveal, you don't gain that information. Because I got to tell you, like, this gives me so information about this player. If I'm playing her again, it's so valuable to see this showdown. So anyway, Stu, I appreciate the call. Thank you very much.